What happened to us in August of 2020, which was a mata? Terrifying, feeling people walking next to you and you see nothing.
Welcome to this new episode. In today's case, we have a story that arrived a while ago on the channel, happened in a rural area of Chile, where a couple came across a very strange situation in the middle of the night and in a very lonely place. Before we start, as always, I invite you to my secondary channel, Who Was It?, where every Sunday there is a new case to enjoy. Anyway, I leave you the important links in a pinned comment, both from my other channels, my social networks, and the different ways to support the channel. Friends, now yes, we don't waste any more time, and we start with this new paranormal story.
And I want to tell you about my experience, something that happened to me. Look, first of all, I am Felipe from Chile. I live in Valparaiso. I'm going to tell you my case and hopefully it will come out at some point. I would love for it to come out because it's something that happened to me with my girlfriend. Well, here in Chile, we call the girlfriend Polola. This thing happened in the first year of the pandemic, 2020.
I'm from Valparaiso, a coastal city in Chile, adjacent to Viña del Mar, at the same latitude as Mendoza, Argentina. And my partner is from Villa Alemana. This city is located about 40 kilometers inland, to give you an idea, towards the Andes mountain range. As I mentioned, we were in the middle of a pandemic, so mobility was extremely restricted. There were permits, but reduced, to be able to go out. So we had decided to take turns 1 week each in our visits. I am a university professor in my city, but at that moment, everything was suspended. The classes were online, so I didn't have many problems traveling to Villa Alemana when required. We had then proposed that 1 week she came to my house, and the next I traveled. I have a hobby, a habit that I love and have been practicing for many years. It's about watching the stars. It's something that has fascinated me since I was very young. Not with a telescope or anything like that, just sit and watch them. That August of the year 2020, it was about 10:30 at night. And after dinner, taking advantage of the beautiful and clear night, we went to find a place to enjoy the sky. We got in the car and took Route 50 that connects Quilpué with the important Route 68 that goes from Santiago de Chile to Valparaiso. The idea was to head towards Lorosco, from where many secondary rural roads branch out into the countryside, offering not only peace, but also tremendous landscapes and of course completely clear skies to enjoy each and every star. In fact, before the pandemic, this was one of my favorite places precisely because of its darkness. It was past 10:30 at night and we knew that there probably were no cops on the road. That's what we usually call the police here, which was ideal because at that time they only gave 2 weekly permits to go out and we had already used ours. But let's be honest, we were going to the middle of nowhere at night in our car and without crossing paths with anyone. On the Lorosco Road, there is basically a lot of farmland, a few small rural houses from the farms in the area, and nothing more than that, pure countryside. Finally, we arrived where I had planned to go, the Camino de las Palmas. I've taken it dozens of times, so I knew it perfectly well, and the night was not a problem. This particular path, to give you an idea, is about 10 kilometers long and it doesn't connect with anything else, meaning that at the end it abruptly cuts off and you have no choice but to return to Route 50. The issue was that we started moving at a very slow speed as we were going up. This path has a slope for several stretches. And meanwhile, I was telling my partner about the many times I had gone to see the stars at this place. She was acting strange, and this is an important detail because later I would find out what was the reason for this discomfort. What did she see? What did she feel? And why was she so upset? A few hundred meters later, already on a gravel road, we stopped. There was no need to go much higher. The night was super dark and any place was good. Besides, as I tell you, I noticed that my partner was uncomfortable. even though she was, of course, constantly trying to hide it. I always have a habit. When I go to this place or any other, I always park the car facing the exit. Mostly because if something unexpected comes up, you can get out as quickly as possible. This was a first-time experience for me. It's just a habit, a precaution I take automatically. Then I parked the car, got out, and silently started to look at the sky. The stars were visible like rarely before, and here, after a few minutes, a situation begins that, remembering it, gives me goosebumps, and I hope you can imagine this moment to understand it better.
The geography of the place is a narrow path that fits but doesn't allow for much else. Have asphalt, but it doesn't have any demarcation line because it's a super rural road, you know. So when you arrive, you get out of the car, and on both sides the road has fences, these field fences, which have poles, these round poles, and barbed wire. Here they call it that, barbed wire. There are fences on both sides. So what happens? When I turn the car around and you stay again looking in position to leave the road, you get out, and to the right side there are fences on both sides, but to the right side there is the wire fence and there is a forest, which is, let's say, at the same level as the street, but to the left side the fence ends and the hill immediately begins. There's a hill. So what happened? We got off, we were about 10 minutes observing, and I was in front of the car and she was behind, and I was telling her, look, okay, do you get it? Look, there's the star and the constellation of Leo. You can see the lion there. Could be seen, I don't know, the belt of Taurus, etc. The thing is that suddenly we had those exchanges of conversations, brief, and after about 10 minutes, I started to listen to a person who was coming walking.
But the strange thing is that it felt close and at the same time far away, or rather as if a person was walking through the middle of the bush, approaching us. I repeat, the darkness was total. The steps were from a person. That classic crunching in the stones, in the grass of the dry brush could be felt, but absolutely nothing could be seen other than the sky. To give you an idea, we could hardly see each other at a short distance. Therefore, if it was a person, perhaps some farmer who had gone out for something, it was impossible for him to walk there in the utmost darkness, regardless of whether he knew the area or not, without even a minimal light as a guide. These steps lasted about a minute, and we heard them getting closer and closer. It should be noted that during that time, neither of us said anything. We kept silent, looking at the stars, and of course individually hearing this thing that had clearly bothered us a lot. I tried to see something, but it was impossible, so with a bit of fear, I admit, I tell Valeria, let's get in the car because someone is coming. At that moment, when I finished saying the words, these footsteps, that very characteristic noise enveloped us. It was upon us. It was something incredible and terrifying, because as I tell you, we saw nothing, and whatever was making this noise was right there, with us, but in a different sense. At that moment it sounded enveloping, as if the footsteps were surrounding us. You can imagine that by then I was more than scared. So I turned towards the car and repeat to my partner to get in the car. She was already inside, so I quickly got in too.
I get in the car, I get in the car and I had the window on my side tinted, and I didn't want to look to the side because I sensed that there was someone there. And you're going to believe me that the incredible thing is that when I put the key in to start the car didn't start. And I tried to start it 2 or 3 times, and I knew, Andres, I didn't want to look out of panic. There was someone outside the car. In fact, I'm going to tell you one more detail, Valeria. Oh, I hope that after arranging this story coherently, but Valeria later told me that she sensed 2 people. In fact, she told me, look, Felipe, as she was behind me, I don't know what there will be, but she heard the same thing as me. She heard 2. She told me there were 2 people. I heard 1, but she told me there were 2 people walking that approached us very close. And the strangest thing, Andres, is that I looked and there was no one. No one. There was no one. We felt people walking, approaching us, and when I got in the car, I start the car, it doesn't start, and like on the third, fourth try, it starts, and I put it in first, but I take off, I take off, I take off, I take off. And we arrived home scared to death.
We barely talked at all the whole way. When we got home and still scared, we talked a bit about everything that had happened. What I can tell you is that was the last time I went down that road. I never dared to go there again, let alone watch the stars in the middle of the night. An important detail that Valeria told me later was that that night, just before taking this road, she had a premonition.
Something bad.
She felt an unknown pressure in her chest that made her feel bad. Exactly. If you remember at the beginning, I said that I noticed she was uncomfortable. She clearly felt something strange long before it happened, before hearing these steps and before feeling that something bad had approached us. We don't know what it was, and I think it will be a big doubt that we will have for the rest of our life.
Told me that she felt these people who were there were not human. She told me it's impossible that they were people. Why? Because a person comes down a hill with a flashlight. These people weren't walking with a flashlight. I felt one, my girlfriend felt two, but I'm going to speak in plural. She says that these people approached us. Imagine that. Obviously, one perceives through your senses. When a person is approaching, you can more or less calculate the distance or by the sound, by the noise. It's the same thing that happens when you feel a car, the engine, and you know more or less what distance it goes by the noise the engine makes. By this Doppler effect that I tell you, that as the object is closer, the object that emits the noise sounds closer the wave, and then it becomes serious. Due to the distancing, that's what I felt, that's what I heard, that's what we experienced. We experienced it. I heard one person, my girlfriend heard two people. But we heard two people walking and they approached to us, and there was no one. I don't know if it was a dark entity. My girlfriend says yes, that it was something very bad. It was too dark to see anything. The craziest thing happened after we got in the car. The car failed to start after several attempts. And around the fourth time, it starts, and then we took off quickly. And from there, never again.
Thank you very much for making it to the end, and I hope you enjoyed this story. I would like you to share your opinions about this case in the comments. What do you think happened and why? See you tomorrow Sunday on my channel Who Was, and here next Wednesday with a new story. Friends, thank you for joining me once again, and now I send a big hug to all of you.